Discover the amazing reason one cleaner cried holding a millionaire's baby, it's life-changing. Sarah's heart raced as she stepped into the luxurious penthouse, the air heavy with sorrow. Out of her familiar world, she could hardly see past the gleaming marble floors and the skyline that stole her breath. Yet, it wasn't the opulence that struck her most, it was the stillness that echoed from the empty rooms. She had come to clean, but what she found was a man lost in grief. Ethan, a once jovial businessman, now sat hunched over, his eyes hollowed by the weight of loss. His young daughter, barely more than an infant, lay asleep in a plush crib. The sight of her brought a flood of emotion that threatened to overflow. Holding an innocent child was like grasping at shards of light through a dark veil. As Sarah began dusting, her thoughts flickered to her own two children. They were the center of her universe, their laughter a sweet balm against the bitterness she felt after losing her husband to the cruel grip of PTSD. Every day was a struggle, but she forged ahead fueled by love and determination. Here, though, in this grand but desolate space, she felt the chasm between her reality and Ethan's widen, a painful contrast that weighed heavily on her, and then it happened. Sarah caught the faint sound of Elisa's whimpers. Instinctively, she moved to the crib, her heart racing with anxiety. Gently picking up the baby, she cradled her against her chest. The warmth of Elisa's tiny body sent a wave of solace coursing through Sarah. She whispered soothing words, and as the infant slowly quieted, Sarah's tears escaped, tears for the joy she longed to feel again, tears for the man who lost so much. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks as Sarah returned to Ethan's penthouse, her bond with him growing deeper each time. While he navigated the darkness of his loss, she brought a glimmer of light for their shared journey, a companionship built on empathy and understanding. Ethan began to smile, though it was a fragile thing, and Sarah felt the joy of being a source of healing, but whispers echoed in their tight-knit community. The judgment in their eyes was palpable. Questions about Ethan's past swirled like shadows, casting doubt on the fragile connection they'd started to build. Sarah felt the weight of their glares. She was merely a cleaner, a single mother from the other side of town, while Ethan was the wealthy man drowning in scandal. As she grappled with her responsibilities to her children and the emerging relationship with Ethan, a moment came that could change everything. A local charity event approached, a chance for Ethan to give back, to show the community his heart, and perhaps for Sarah to see the man behind the whispers. But the air was thick with uncertainty. Could they rise above the skepticism? With each heartbeat drawing them closer to either connection or separation, Sarah found herself torn. Could hope really conquer the expansive divides of class and misunderstanding that shackled them all? As the crisis threatened to unfold, she braced herself, knowing choices had to be made and lives could intertwine in surprising ways. Would she find the courage to protect what mattered most? As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the skyline, Sarah stood in front of Ethan's penthouse, her heart pounding with uncertainty. Tomorrow's charity event loomed large, and with it, the weight of expectations that felt heavier than her responsibilities back home. She could already hear the whispers in her mind, the doubts about her worth, about their disparity, about love blossoming in a world that often didn't allow it. Ethan had promised he'd see her before the event. She took a deep breath and stepped inside, where the familiar expanse of sorrow waited to embrace her. But today felt different. Today, there was a flicker of hope. Through the bright open living area, she saw him with Elise cradled in his arms, a wholesome image that felt miles away from the beleaguered man she first met. Ethan's gaze lifted, catching hers, and a soft smile broke through the shadows. "Sarah," he said, his voice warm like a soothing balm. "I was hoping you'd come." Her cheeks warmed. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." She stepped closer as he settled Elise back into the crib, gently tucking the blanket around her. The sight brought a rush of tenderness that threatened to spill over, but a cloud of doubt followed close behind. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" "It's a big night for you," Sarah asked, trying to keep her tone light even as her mind churned with worries. Ethan exhaled deeply, tension evident in his posture. "I don't know if I am ready. It's the first time I'll be in front of the community since everything happened." His words hung thick in the air, and for a moment, silence enveloped them. "I can be there for you," Sarah offered, surprising even herself. The prospect of stepping into his world, of facing the judging eyes alongside him, sent a tremor through her. He turned, eyes locking onto hers, vulnerability etched across his handsome features. "I want you there, more than anything." Joy mingled with fear inside her. How could two people from such different worlds unite against the tide of doubt? Still, there was something electric in his gaze that made her heart skip. "Elise needs a solid father figure," she said, her voice softer now, tinged with an unmeant honesty. "She needs you to be the best version of yourself." "And what about you? What do you need?" His question caught her off guard, and heat flooded her cheeks at the unexpected intimacy of it. "Honestly?" Sarah could feel the weight of her own needs surfacing. "I need to feel like I belong again. I need—" She faltered, searching his eyes for encouragement. "I need to feel hope." His hands found hers, their warmth grounding. "You are hope, Sarah. You brought me back, even when I felt like I was lost." With those words, the walls she had been building around her heart began to crumble. She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Perhaps they could navigate this together, despite the whispers. But then, the phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her back to reality. A message from home, a reminder of her daily struggles. It felt like a reminder of a different life, one full of chaos and challenges, and a sharp pang of insecurity sliced through her. Right then, she wasn't just a cleaner or a single mother, she was a woman longing to be seen. Ethan noticed her sudden shift. "Is everything okay?" She hesitated. The balancing act between her life and this new one felt more daunting by the minute. "Yeah, just home stuff." But as she looked back at him, determination replaced her hesitation. In that moment, she decided. "Let us face this together. Let us show them who we are." A renewed look flickered in Ethan's eyes. They were two souls crossed by fate in the most extraordinary way. But with the event approaching, she couldn't shake the sense that they weren't just battling external judgments, they were about to confront the true test of their connection. As darkness settled and the city lights flickered to life, Sarah knew the next day could alter their lives forever. What if their courage crumbled under pressure? Would they stand firm, or would fear tear them apart before they truly began? She took his hand firmly, ready for whatever came next. Tomorrow would be a defining moment. What would happen when the truth of their bond was laid bare for all to see? That feeling of uncertainty hung in the air, an unseen tension that buzzed between them like an electric current. As night deepened around them, Sarah and Ethan lingered in the rich stillness of the moment, their hands intertwined. It felt like the world had shrunk down to just the two of them, the outside pressures fading to the background. But the weight of tomorrow loomed like a storm cloud overhead, threatening to break at any moment. "What if I fall apart?" Ethan's voice prepared her for the vulnerability that often accompanied the night. "What if I freeze when all eyes are on me? I'll be right there." Sarah squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth spread through her. "You won't be alone. We're in this together." He nodded, but doubt lingered in his eyes. It cut through her heart, making every word feel important. "You're so strong, Ethan. You have to know that." "I'm not strong today," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared. She needs me to be brave, and so do you." Those words hung heavy, ready to tip the scales of their budding relationship. She wanted to tell him that it was okay to be scared, that vulnerability didn't mean weakness. Instead, she transformed his fear into courage, reminding him of how he faced everything else when the world turned dark. "Remember that time?" she said, her eyes brightening as she recalled the memory. When you came to visit the center and helped those kids paint. You were so alive, so present. That's who you really are. Ethan chuckled, the tension in his shoulders easing. And I thought I was a disaster with the brush. Not at all. You made them smile, you helped them forget, she said, emphasizing the enormity of his gesture. You can do that again tomorrow. Just be you. Just me, he echoed, and the spark of determination ignited in his eyes. Yet, beneath the laughter, Sarah could sense he was still searching for reassurance. Listen, she said, her voice steady. You might not have it all figured out, but you don't need to be perfect. Just show them how much you love Elise. Show them you're trying. His expression softened, a mixture of gratitude and relief surging through his gaze. They sat there for a moment, sharing the burden of anticipation, before Ethan spoke again. What about you? What will you do tomorrow? Her excitement flickered like a candle flame against the night sky. I'll be in the background, cheering you on. But I want you to be more than that, he insisted. You deserve to be seen too, not just as my support, but as yourself. The warmth of his words enveloped her, igniting something deeper. She needed to let go of the fears that had been restricting her, the ones that chained her to doubt and insecurity. Then I will, she vowed. I'll represent us. Together. He pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. Together, he confirmed softly, and for a moment, the night faded away. But reality crashed back in an unexpected wave. A sudden ringing interrupted their intimacy. Ethan's phone buzzed, disrupting their tender exchange. He pulled back, anguish crossing his face, and reached for the device. It's my sister, he muttered. Anxiety twisted in his gut, the warmth of their moment now entangled with something serious. Hey, Kate, he answered, his voice tense, and just like that, the air shifted. Sarah's heart raced as she caught Snippet's urgent questions, potential complications surrounding tomorrow, and she felt the shadows creep back into their fragile sanctuary. He glanced at her, a look of worry already etched upon his face. What do you mean, the committee is reconsidering? As he listened intently, shadows deepened in the corners of the room, and an unsettling knot formed in Sarah's stomach. The fear of tomorrow was no longer confined to just them. It threatened to ripple through their plans, their hopes. Ethan's eyes darted around, brimming with uncertainty. We have to fix this. In that moment, Sarah sensed that everything was about to spiral. And a new question emerged in the stillness of the room. Would they be able to face these unforeseen challenges together, or would tomorrow's event reshape everything they had fought for? Ethan ended the call, his face a whirlwind of emotions. The tightness in his jaw mirrored the conflict brewing inside her chest. They're saying they might change the venue for tomorrow, he said, his voice trembling. And there's a chance the event could fall through entirely. She could see the storm within him. What does that mean for Elise? Sarah whispered. His sister's words echoed in her mind. Would all their efforts and dreams shatter with a single decision? It means everything, Sarah. His eyes held the weight of thousands of unspoken fears. If they move it and don't give us enough notice, Elise will miss out on what she deserves. She needs this. The kids at the center need you too, she reminded him gently, her voice steady. You can't lose sight of that. Ethan took a deep breath, wrestling with the tide of emotions crashing around him. What if they don't see how important this is? How much it means to me, to Elise. This is her chance to feel special, to shine. Sarah's heart ached for him. She understood how deeply he felt for his sister. Ethan, let us focus on what we can control. We've come so far already. You're not alone in this fight. He stared out into the night, the moonlight reflecting his determination. You're right. A flicker of hope ignited behind his troubled gaze. But how can we stop it? We don't even know the reason why they're reconsidering. Then we find out. Sarah leaned in, the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers filling her with a rush of warmth. We'll figure this out together. I'll be right beside you. He looked away, uncertainty shadowing his features. But something flickered alive when he met her gaze again. You really mean that? Of course. It's what partners do, she replied, the conviction in her voice stronger than she felt. She wanted to believe that they had the power to reclaim their destiny. Let us reach out to your sister. Maybe she'll have more answers. Ethan nodded, his shoulders easing ever so slightly. He reached for his phone again but hesitated. I don't want to put her through more stress. She's already juggling so much. And you're not. Sarah challenged gently. You need each other right now, Ethan, even more than before. You two are a team, just like us. The flicker of determination in his eyes brightened. Okay, let us call her. As he dialed, Sarah squeezed his hand tighter, channeling every bit of strength she had into him. The call was short but informative. They're concerned about low attendance, he said after hanging up, his brows knit in worry. If they don't believe the event will succeed, they might cancel it altogether. What can we do? She asked, her heart racing. We need to show them how much this matters. Ethan's eyes lit up with an idea. We could gather support. I can reach out to people who care about Elise, about the cause. If they see that we have a community behind us, they might change their minds. Exactly. Sarah's voice picked up, excitement coursing through her. This is something worth fighting for. We can send messages, share our story. Together, he reiterated, a smile breaking the tension. We'll gather everyone we can. I won't let Elise down. Sarah's heart soared with each word. In that moment, they found their resolve together. They grasped a new purpose that transcended their fears. She felt the heavy weight of tomorrow shift, if only just a bit, but as they talked about mobilizing their friends and allies, a nagging thought lingered in the back of Sarah's mind. What if the venue wasn't the only challenge they had to face? A twist lingered in the air, an uncertain shadow that she couldn't quite shake off. As they formulated their plan, the warmth of determination wrapped around her. Yet, she couldn't help but wonder, was this race for their dreams just the beginning of something far more complex than they had anticipated? Time would tell, and as night slipped deeper into dawn, her heart pounded with both hope and an unsettling sense of impending realization. What lay ahead would determine not just their fight for tomorrow, but the turning point of their lives. As dawn broke, a soft glow filtered through their apartment windows, bathing Sarah and Ethan in a warm light that felt almost ethereal. The world was waking up, but within their small bubble of existence, the urgency to act kept them both rooted in place, consumed by their thoughts. Ethan stood by the window, gazing out at the street below. The moment felt monumental, like the calm before a storm. We should start reaching out now, he said, determination lacing his voice. The sooner we gather support, the better. Yes, but we need a plan, too, Sarah replied, her mind racing with possibilities. Let us create a compelling message that captures what this event means not just to Elise, but to everyone who has been part of this journey. She could feel the adrenaline pumping through her veins, mingling with the hope that surged within her. Ethan turned to face her, his brow furrowed in thought. What if we share personal stories? Moments that have impacted people, how Elise has changed their lives. If they feel connected to her, maybe they'll show up. Sarah nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. We can even put together a quick social media campaign. Everyone can share their stories, and we'll use the hashtag something like Elise's Day. It'll create a movement. As they spoke, their hands moved frantically, scribbling ideas on notepads, creating sketches for potential posts. Each word breathed life into their plan, binding Ethan's and Sarah's resolve even tighter together. They weren't just fighting for the event anymore, they were fighting for the recognition of every child, every illness, and every dream that remained unfulfilled. Hours passed as they organized contacts, fond memories interwoven between the calls and messages sent out to family, friends, and community members. With each text sent, hope flickered brighter. But the undercurrent of struggle was always there, a subtle reminder that their fight was only just beginning. "Do you think it's really going to work?" Ethan asked, a hint of doubt shadowing his bright demeanor. They were sitting side by side on the couch, laptops glowing in front of them. Sarah reached over, squeezing his hand. "We've already received responses. People are excited to support Elise. Someone even said they'd grab their kids and make it a family outing. And think about this, it's about more than just attendance. It's about bringing people together for a cause." A smile broke through Ethan's fears. "You're right. This isn't just an event, it's a celebration, a chance for the community to come together. We need to believe that it's going to work." But just as quickly as his joy surged, a shadow returned. "What if it doesn't?" he said, anguish creeping back into his voice. "What if, despite our best efforts, they still decide to cancel it? Then we keep fighting," she said fiercely, her eyes locked onto his. "This is a fight for Elise, for our community. We won't let a setback define us." Her heart raced, every utterance heavy with the weight of their dreams. They couldn't allow fear to win, not today. As their campaign gained traction, messages flooded in from well-wishers, supporters, and even local businesses willing to sponsor the event. Yet, the relief was short-lived. One call from a local news outlet brought unsettling news. They wanted to air a story about the event, but they had questions about the venue change and concerns about the organizers, leaving Sarah feeling more anxious than ever. "What if they highlight the uncertainty?" Sarah whispered, her heart racing again. "What if they focus on the negative? We need to be transparent, but what if that backfires?" Ethan finished for her, the worry clear in his eyes. They exchanged glances, their fears mirrored back at them. Fear of failure blanketed the room, choking the air between them. But there was one thing they didn't know: the reason behind the venue change and the hidden truth that could either make or break everything they were working toward. As they continued to rally support, a strange sense of dread loomed. Was there something they had missed? Something vital that could change their entire approach? The questions echoed in Sarah's mind as they prepared to head to the community center later that day, uncertainty gnawing at her. What awaited them might be the turning point in more ways than one. Would they be ready to face the truth, whatever it was? As they stepped into the community center, a bittersweet mix of hope and anxiety washed over Sarah. The hall was bustling with activity. Parents set up tables, kids dashed around, and volunteers hung colorful banners that spoke to Elise's journey. The energy was electric, but beneath the surface, Sarah could feel the tension coiling tighter. They were all here for a reason, but the unknown loomed like a dark cloud overhead. Ethan held her hand firmly as they navigated through the crowd. "Look at all these people," he said, a hint of wonder in his voice. "This is what we wanted, right?" "Yeah, but it's still so fragile," she whispered, glancing around. "Everything feels like it could change in an instant." They approached the main stage where a few community leaders were already discussing logistics. Sarah's heart pounded. Would they mention the venue concerns? Would they address the doubts that plagued her? She leaned closer to Ethan, her worry palpable. Just as they settled toward the back, a voice rang out from the dais. "We're thrilled to be here today for Elise and her amazing journey. This is a celebration of our community and resilience," the speaker greeted enthusiastically. The audience responded with a smattering of applause, more subdued than Sarah had hoped. "Let us make sure we frame it all right," Ethan murmured, squeezing her hand tighter, but then, a surprise twist. The speaker paused, their expression shifting. "However, before we dive into the festivities, I must bring up a recent development that could impact our gathering today." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Sarah's throat felt dry. She held her breath, tension tightening around her. What are they going to say? Would they really cancel the event? Ethan pondered, a crease forming on his forehead. "Let us just hope that they've found a solution," Sarah replied, trying to mask her growing anxiety. The speaker continued, "As many of you know, concerns were raised regarding our original venue. We received a notice that it was no longer available, creating uncertainty around our plans. A murmur spread through the crowd. Sarah could feel the weight of disappointment settling in. There it was, the looming threat they had feared. But, the speaker went on, raising their hands for attention, thanks to quick thinking and heartfelt collaboration from all of you here today, we've managed to secure this beautiful community center. A wave of relief washed over Sarah, followed by scattered applause. Okay, that's good, she breathed out, feeling the knot in her stomach start to ease, yet the speaker wasn't finished. However, we did find out that the property owners originally wanted to prevent any events that didn't align with their vision. Sadly they hesitated, this was a result of misinformation. It was not about Elise, but about their misperceptions on how this could affect their reputation. Sarah froze. Misinformation? She repeated softly, her mind racing. What did that mean? Were they trying to control the narrative? Ethan turned to her, uncertain. So, it wasn't about us. About Elise? A chill traced down Sarah's spine as implications began to surface. There has to be more to it. We need to find out who was involved in this, and why. They exchanged worried looks, the adrenaline surging again. There was a bigger story waiting to be uncovered, one that might explain why such a drastic venue change was made. As they stepped away from the crowd, Sarah felt a rekindled determination. If we dig deeper, maybe we can unravel the truth. We can't let misinformation win. Not when everything we've fought for hangs in the balance. Ethan nodded, affirmation in his gaze. Then we do this together. We uncover the truth. But just as they turned to walk away, a figure stepped out from the side, a woman holding a baby, a stranger, yet her eyes bore a weight of secrets. Excuse me, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I think you need to know the real reason behind the venue change. Sarah's heart raced. What did this stranger know? And how would the truth alter their mission? This moment could expose something monumental, sending ripples through everything they had worked for. Would they be ready for what lay ahead? The woman stepped closer, her eyes darting between Ethan and Sarah, as if weighing their intentions. The room around them buzzed with excitement, but in that moment, it felt as if all sound faded into a haunting silence. Sarah felt a prickle at the back of her neck, a rush of urgency flooding her veins. Who are you? Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice calm despite the tremor beneath. I was the one who brought the venue concerns to light, the woman said, hesitating as the baby in her arms made a soft cooing sound. They didn't want anyone knowing the truth about Elise's story. They were afraid. Her voice shook, and suddenly Sarah wasn't just seeing a stranger but a person weighed down by burdens. Afraid of what? Ethan pressed, his grip on Sarah's hand tightening. Afraid of backlash. They thought if people knew about Elise, it would change their reputation, their business dealings. Her voice faltered, and she looked down at the baby, as if seeking reassurance. But that's just the thing, it's not Elise they should fear. It's the truth. What do you mean? Sarah felt her heart pounding, the anticipation crackling like static in the air. The woman took a breath, steadying herself. I've seen families come together because of her story. The goodness it brings out in people. Yet, those owners only see it as a liability, not the gift it truly is. They'd rather protect their image than let their hearts be open. She paused, glancing at the crowd. I couldn't let that happen. That's why I came forward. Sarah exchanged a look with Ethan, a rush of new emotions swirling in her chest, hope, anger, and an urgency to dig deeper. But now, with misinformation spreading, how do we change their minds? You have to show them. Show everyone how powerful Elise's story really is. Look around, you have the community at your back, the woman urged, her eyes brightening slightly. This can spark more than just a celebration, it can ignite change. And you're sure about that? Ethan inquired, his expression a mixture of skepticism and optimism. The stranger nodded fiercely. I believe it with all my heart. They need to hear it from everyone who stands with you. From the parents, from the kids, and from Elise's journey itself. Your voices will drown out the doubt. Sarah felt a fire ignite within her. She turned towards the stage, where leaders were gearing up for the next part of the celebration, oblivious to the crucial conversation happening just steps away. Would you join us? Will you help us tell the truth? Sarah asked, feeling the weight of each word. The woman looked down at the baby, then back at Sarah. I want to, but what if they don't listen? Then we make them listen, Ethan said, his voice steadier than ever. We gather stories. We claim our space. We make this a day they won't forget. Together, Sarah added, her voice strong. The woman smiled softly, surrendering to their spirit. Together, she echoed. As they stepped forward, hearts racing and purpose solidified, a sudden cheer erupted from the stage. The crowd lifted their voices in a harmony of support, and Sarah felt a wave of determination wash over her, but just as they began to make their way through the throngs of people, an older gentleman appeared out of nowhere, his face twisted in anger. You don't want to stir that pot, he warned, his tone low and threatening. You have no idea what they'll do next. A new fear gripped Sarah, but as she looked into Ethan's eyes, determination overshadowed it. This was just the beginning. What would they uncover next? And what lengths would they have to go to protect their truth? The clock was ticking. The crowd surged around them, a sea of excited faces. Yet, within that whirlpool of energy, Sarah felt a small universe of fear and resolve growing inside her. The older man's warning echoed in her ears, chilling her spirit. He was right in one way. The stakes were high. She could almost feel the tension stretching like a taut wire between them and the stage, where the celebration of Elise was poised to explode into something truly impactful. Ethan, Sarah whispered, her eyes never leaving the man who still glared at them. What do you think he meant? I don't know, Ethan replied, squeezing her hand tighter. But we need to be smart about this. If he's warning us, I know, she murmured, determination sharpening her voice. But we can't back down now. As they pressed forward, the woman they had spoken with suddenly stepped beside them, her baby cradled closer. They can silence you, all they want. But they can't silence all of us. Her voice was fierce, and Sarah felt a rush of gratitude for this unexpected ally. Right, Sarah rasped, still glancing at the old man, who had vanished into the crowd. If we want to change minds, we need to start with our own community. Let us gather those stories. Let us find those families, those voices that need to be heard. Together, they navigated through clusters of partygoers, ready to ignite the flames of change. The warm atmosphere felt charged now, a gathering of like-minded spirits under Elise's banner. Look, the woman said, gesturing towards a group of parents near a colorful booth. I know them. They've been impacted by Elise's story. We can ask them to share. They approached the parents, talking animatedly among themselves. As they drew near, their laughter faded to curious smiles. Hey, we're trying to do something important today, Sarah initiated, her heart racing. We want to share stories about Elise, about how she has brought us all together. Would you join us? It could make a real difference. The parents exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from surprise to emotion. One mother, her eyes glimmering with unshed tears, stepped forward. Elise's story changed my son's life. He used to feel so alone. Another parent chimed in, his voice thick. Where do we begin? A lightness lifted Sarah's heart. We're still gathering stories, still building momentum. If we want to take this further, we need everyone to raise their voice. As they spoke, more families joined them, sharing tales of transformation and community. Each story piled upon the last, each voice blending into a chorus of resilience. Sarah's pulse quickened, it felt alive, electric, but then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw the older gentleman again, this time lurking at the edges of the crowd. His expression was a mixture of resentment and determination that sent a chill down her spine. Was he waiting to intervene? "Ethan," she said, the urgency crawling back into her voice. "I think we're being watched. We need to be ready for what comes next." The support around them was invigorating, but the looming threat of backlash hovered like a storm cloud. They had ignited something beautiful, and yet, it felt precarious. Little did they know, a hidden agenda lay behind the old man's piercing gaze. What would happen when the truth they sought to unveil clashed with the people intent on keeping it buried? The stage lights flickered, and the anticipation sparked anew. The moment to take a stand was closing in. What consequences awaited them as their journey turned more dangerous than they had imagined? As Sarah felt the weight of the older man's watchful gaze intensify, a mixture of excitement and fear roiled within her. Each voice that rose around her added to the chorus, but the thudding of her heart drowned out the laughter and joy out there in the crowd. She shared a quick glance with Ethan, who nodded as if he could see the pending danger too. Their moment of connectivity sharpened her focus. "Let us keep moving," Ethan urged, his voice steady, despite the tremor creeping into his hands. Taking a deep breath, Sarah gathered her wits. She stepped forward, her voice louder now, stronger. "We're here to make our community heard. We can't let fear silence us." The words tumbled out, wrapping around the parents and their children like an embrace. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group, faces lighting up with shared purpose. One by one, families stepped up, their stories intertwining, transforming into a collective memory of resilience. "Thank you for sharing, but we need more," Sarah declared, her spirit buoyed by their energy. "Elise's story isn't just hers, it's ours. It resonates in every struggle we face. Let us take what we've built here and share it with the world." At that moment, a hush fell over the crowd. The sudden stillness prickled her skin. The older man had stepped back forward, his figure looming. She felt an icy dread wash over the gathering. They were seen now. The man stood, imposing and resolute, like a storm on the horizon. "He's going to try to silence us." A voice broke through the silence, igniting a fire within the group. It was that same mother who had spoken of her son. Her hands balled into fists of determination. "You want to take our stories. You want to take our lives." Someone shouted, emboldened by the building energy. Voices melded together, rising in defiance, and Sarah felt her heart swell. This was it, a real movement was born not just from words, but from love and unity, community rising to dismantle fear. But the older man stepped closer, words sharp like knives. "You think you can change anything? The world isn't as simple as your little stories. There are consequences to your actions." The dread settled again, thick as fog. A cold sweat broke on Sarah's brow. What was he implying? Always a threat looming, like the clouds piling high before a downpour. "Whoa, whoa." Ethan stepped toward the man, his fists clenched. "What do you know about consequences? We're not afraid of the truth." The older man's gaze turned icy, yet Sarah saw it flicker. Just for a moment, uncertainty glimmered there. It made her wonder. "Truth? You have no idea what you're toying with." The crowd held its breath. Tension wound thicker, like the chords of a guitar pulled tight before the first chord strums. It was a delicate balance. Could they hold on to this moment? "What if we do know?" Sarah pushed, her voice steady, emboldened by each story shared. "What if we're ready to face whatever comes next?" The crowd surged with supportive murmurs. There was power in their unity. Yet something inside Sarah whispered caution. There would be a cost for rising against the tide, and it wouldn't be long before they faced that reckoning. She looked into the crowd, searching faces that mirrored her resolve and fear. They all sensed it now, the pushback they'd face, a line drawn in the sand. As the stage lights brightened, illuminating every emotion, Sarah felt the electric pull of the moment. Would they charge ahead, brave enough to embrace every unknown consequence? And then, something swooped through the crowd. A child's laughter bubbled up, cutting through the heaviness like sunlight through storm clouds. But glancing back at the older man, Sarah felt the chill return. An unsettling thought bubbled in the back of her mind: what secrets lay in his shadows? With a swift movement, he turned and took off through the mass of bodies, leaving a trail of unease behind him. The air crackled with uncertainty. "Do you think he'll come back?" she asked Ethan, her heart racing. "I don't know, but we need to be ready," he replied, hinting at the potential dangers looming ahead. As fear still danced in the background, hope flickered within her. Amidst the uncertainty, Sarah sensed their collective strength could rise above. Whatever was about to unfold would bond them tighter than ever. Could they really turn their fear into something beautiful? The answer was just out of reach, twisting like the crowd around them, swelling with anticipation. With the unknown threatening to erupt, an undeniable urge surged within her. Would they be ready for the truth when it finally broke? The atmosphere was electric as Sarah and Ethan stood side by side, the buzzing energy of the crowd fueling their determination. The fear that had stalked them melted into a sense of hope that shimmered in the air, illuminating the path forward. They had come together under the banner of Elise and represented something much bigger than just one child's journey. They were now the heartbeat of their community, the embodiment of resilience. "We can't turn back now," Sarah said, her voice ringing clear above the murmuring crowd. "We have to share Elise's story. Every word, every voice, it has to count." Her heart raced as she looked across the sea of faces, filled with empathy, anger, and courage. Together, Ethan echoed, the conviction in his tone igniting a wave of enthusiasm. They had each other and the support of families whose lives had been touched by Elise's spirit. "Let us gather everyone, let us make this a true celebration of hope," Sarah shouted, rallying the crowd. It wasn't just about Elise, it was about every family, every struggle. Families stepped forward, their faces brightening, ready to share their stories of strength, of how Elise's journey had intertwined with their own lives. As stories burst forth, echoing laughter and teary-eyed confessions, they united in their mission. A shared theme of love and growth blossomed in their words. The people found their voices, daring to stand against the shadows of doubt. Amidst the fervor, Sarah kept an eye out for the older man. While his earlier threats had cast a haze over their gathering, they now seemed distant. United, the crowd became an unstoppable force, each story lifting them higher. But still, tension loomed in the air. It was unseen, but palpably felt. Then, just as momentum soared, he emerged again. The older man reappeared with an imposing presence, casting a shadow that momentarily dulled the brightness of their anthems. But the community stood firm, faces resolute, whispers of fear transforming into waves of collective defiance. Sarah stepped forward, her spine straightening, ready to confront whatever he had to say. "Do you honestly believe any of this matters?" he barked, his tone dripping with skepticism. "You think you're changing anything? Why not?" she answered, her heart pounding. "Why shouldn't we dare to hope? Why shouldn't we shine a light on the truth?" It felt liberating to voice her passion, to fight for what was right alongside Ethan and the community behind her. His gaze narrowed, doubt flickering in his eyes, but Sarah pressed on. "Elise's story isn't just an isolated tale. It's about every child facing challenges, facing fear, facing misunderstanding. We can rewrite the narrative." As she spoke, the crowd rallied behind her, chanting, "Together! Together!" The echoes bounced off the walls and surged like a wave, drowning out the man's objections. "See!" came an unexpected voice, breaking through the noise. It was the woman with the baby. "You're not alone in this fight. You have a community that stands with you, not just for you, but for everyone who feels unheard." The sincerity in her words was palatable, connecting to everyone assembled. The older man hesitated, looking back as parents held their children tighter, eyes bursting with hope. For once, a flicker of uncertainty glimmered across his hardened expression. "Are you willing to change?" Sarah asked, her voice unwavering. I know fear can drive us apart, but together we can build something meaningful and real. We can change the conversation. Somehow, she felt the undeniable power of that moment, truth hanging in the air, begging for acknowledgement. In that heartbeat, she realized the older man held the key to a larger truth, one that could either fortify their fight or crush it entirely. He sighed heavily, the tension lifting as he found himself surrounded by the weight of the crowd's purpose. And if I say it's too much? Too challenging? Then we show you that we can handle it. Show you our power, Ethan replied, stepping forward. You may not believe the impact of Elise's story yet, but we will prove it to you. A quiet spread through the crowd as murmurs of agreement flared. Sarah felt their collective courage washing over them like an undeniable tide. As the man looked from family to family, confusion and doubt turned to understanding. Perhaps this community could push back against the skepticism he embodied for so long. Fine, he relented, his voice low. You have your chance. But if it fails? We won't let it, Sarah interjected with fierce determination. Together, nothing can break us. The community erupted in cheers, sound waves brushing against the walls like ripples of a new beginning. This wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a transformation. They would unite not just for Elise, but for every child's untold story, a powerful reminder that light could pierce the darkest shadows. Finally coming together as one collective force, Sarah squeezed Ethan's hand. They were on the brink of creating something meaningful. The moments they had fought through, the pain, the fear, they'd come together to reclaim hope. As the celebration unfolded, stories were shared, laughter erupted, and joy spilled into the air. They transformed their overwhelming fears into strength. The battle wasn't over, but instead had morphed into a declaration of love and resilience. Together, they had woven nothing short of a tapestry of change. And as they did, she realized it would keep unfolding, as long as they held on to hope. With a heart bursting with joy, Sarah looked at Ethan. Their journey had just begun, and with it came the promise of lasting change. They weren't just cleaning up a truth, they were building a world where love reigned supreme. As the sunset painted the horizon, she whispered, "Tomorrow will be brighter," and he nodded, their eyes shining with the warmth of shared purpose. They had arrived at a beautiful moment, a promise of growing strength, painted in hues of hope. But this was only the beginning. Now, as you feel the inspiration of Sarah and Ethan's journey, it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will transform your understanding of hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Your support matters more than you know. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about the ending. We want to hear from you, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. The world needs this story, and you have the power to spread it. Don't wait not even one more second to show your love.